Trust is a very interesting, I don't want to say word, that would be too limiting. Trust. How much of life is built on trust? Let's begin where it's always good to begin, with our children, with ourselves as children. Imagine, one of the key things to appreciate something is to imagine if you didn't have it, a lack of it. If we didn't have water, we didn't have oxygen, God forbid. Imagine life without trust. Imagine children did not have parents they can trust, siblings, a home, security, everything that comes in our lives that we rely on. What would life be like? So you may say, I don't need to imagine it. My life is exactly that way. I've heard this, unfortunately, from many people, where they talk about a life that they grew up with, they have no one to trust. But there are also, we all know, variations. Absolutely no one to trust would be, to me, that would be like beyond devastating. I can't even imagine how a person could survive. To know 24/7 there's no one you can trust. In many ways, it's actually worse when there are people you could trust and then they betray you and violate you. Because here you're someone that, a stranger who you can't trust in the first place, you don't rely on them. But someone that you're expecting love from, a parent. And they indeed actually show you love. And you have good memories. But then the same person could also become a monster and hurt you. In many ways, that's even worse. But regardless, can a person really live without trust? I would say it's as important as oxygen, if not more than that. Oxygen is a physical necessity, a biological necessity. Trust is a psychological, emotional, spiritual necessity. It's essentially knowing that there's someone there for you. Someone cares, that you're valuable enough to be cared for. So when, yes, your mother carried you in her womb for 9 months, that developed 9 months of trust. That never goes away. Because you could trust the baby, the fetus developing, can trust the food, the oxygen, the drink, everything that sustains us for those 9 months. And it's interesting, it's not even dependent what kind of mother you have. Obviously, if the pregnant mother is doing something really destructive, could be terrible. But without that, there's a certain element of being protected even from her attitudes. I mean, there's studies showing that a mother's attitude can have effect, but we're pretty much buffered and insulated. So what happens is your beginning of your formation, of your formative years, we're talking about the earliest stages, from conception till birth, is all about trust. You're in a trusted environment. If a child, imagine, did not know if it's going to get food the next day or the next hour, what would it do to the child's psyche? So that's the good news, that we all begin with 9 months at least. The question if it continues on after birth, and that already depends on the parents. If you're talking about nurturing parents, they'll continue to provide a trusting environment, an environment that you're cared for, you're nurtured, protected, reinforced, self-esteem is built. That's the best case scenario. The worst case is where a child begins to be betrayed and does not feel that their parents are there for them. Absentee or worse. And once that trust gets eroded, that, I'm waiting for my father and my mother to come home. I remember my own little vivid memory as a child, me and my sister, my younger sister. And our parents had gone out. We were not babies, but we were waiting. And then we started crying. We missed our parents. It was raining outside, I remember. We felt that the rain was also the angels crying with us. So 2 children, baby, crying in a window. Tati, Mommy, we're praying. Come home already. They finally came home, obviously. It was actually horrible. And this wasn't like they left for hours. or happened ever before or after again. It was they went out and they thought, it probably was a half hour, an hour if I really think about it. But for children, it doesn't matter the amount of time, because there's that certain absolute trust. I know you could say it looks naive, but that's why it is. Then people ask, why don't children leave abusive homes? Why don't they just run away? They have nowhere to run to, because for a child in their child's mentality, home is the world. Running outside the door of your house is like falling off the earth. There is no other reality. That's why children that move a lot, you move from homes and so on, it's very disruptive. A child wants to know where it's sleeping every night. Not know consciously, it's just a certain consistency is critical. Because consistency cultivates trust. I know I can rely, I know where I will be tonight. I know that I will be nurtured. I know that I will be tucked in at night by my mother and my father. When those things get disrupted, I don't mean a one-time thing. Consistently, it has strong impact. So trust in that context is vital to building our own self-esteem. Now, once we build it, we still need trust, but you've already established it. And if in some way it's severed or aborted too early, and the trust never was built, you will always have issues with anyone you meet, because there'll always be the question, can I trust this person or not? And that's why you find when people date, and they start getting involved in emotional relationships, you'll see exactly that will happen. They'll test and test and test, and don't trust themselves and don't trust the other, and it becomes an ordeal, a terrible ordeal. So whom can you trust, and how do you find the person that you can trust? Let us say indeed that you did grow up in a home and environment that was not consistent, was not secure. Maybe at times yes, but at times not. Remember, even if times that's not, that already creates a distrust. Or if you're a person who has grown up with trust, obviously it'll be easier for you. So how do you deal with all that? And how do you build trust in a place where there was lack of trust? So I want to talk about that, how you build trust. Now, you could argue trust is built on perfection. If I can find the perfect partner, the perfect friend, the perfect spouse, whatever, they'll always never make a mistake, and I can start trusting that. That's the illusion of a child, because no human being has that type of perfection. So there's an expression, I'm not sure who coined it, but I think it resonates very deeply. And that is, trust is built not on perfection, but on accountability. Accountability is something completely different. It means even if I make a mistake, I will not cover it up. I'll be transparent, I'll be accountable. I won't hide it, I won't lie. That you can learn to trust, because you know it's not perfection, but there's accountability. That person cares enough. And they're not just there to protect their own skin and hide something that they're embarrassed of, especially something that affects me. Now, I'm not saying that's enough. Accountability is not enough, because some people, okay, they're accountable, then they do it again, and then they're kind of accountable, and then they do it again. We mean a relationship where you see a person has that sincerity, that integrity. But there's a lot more to trust, and we'll talk about that as well. But I first wanted to establish what it means, the lack of it. Then we can figure out how to build it. Now, keep in mind, if indeed you have trust issues because of your childhood, of your formative years, know that you have a real battle, a real enemy in your life, because everyone is guilty until proven innocent. But don't try to blame it on others. Know that in yourself. I'm not saying beat yourself up, but you need to compensate. You need to address that you have extra sensitivities, just like a person who's been injured and they're making believe they're not injured. No, you are injured, and that part of your hand or arm or body is sensitive. So know that. So that way you won't overblame somebody else and say it's someone else's fault. It's critical to know that. Then there are ways you can start building upon that. So the first step, my friends, is acknowledgement. Acknowledgement, yes, I did grow up without trust in my life. And it created a devastating situation. And I'm trying to remedy that. Don't try to normalize it. Because if you try to normalize a toxic childhood, then that creates even more reason to distrust yourself even. You start trusting yourself. You're not even honest about it. So it's like someone saying, I was traumatized, but no, it never happened. It did happen. You were betrayed. And you can cry about it, and it may be very painful. But some of us cover it up. We cover it up, not the cover up of the other person. And that is never going to be helpful because it's affecting you. So you can play tough and you can play bravado and make believe, not what happened, I gotten beyond it, I've grown out of it, it doesn't bother me. You need to be honest about it. I'm not saying you have to make it the most important priority, but you have to be honest about it. And if indeed you find someone that you feel potential trust, you need to be able to talk about it. Now, many of us are afraid to talk about it because what's that person going to think? And I'm damaged goods. I'm not worthy of trust. If they don't know, maybe they'll be more loving. They know that, a lot of people feel they'll just be replayed. I don't deserve to be trusted. So these are things you have to work through. But then what indeed do you look for in the other? And remember, it's going to be difficult because you're not going to look at the other objectively. You're going to always find something wrong with them, when indeed it could be that you are so sensitive that you're never letting them in. So first thing, acknowledging your own sensitivities and challenges and vulnerabilities and blind spots. And two is identifying what really creates true trust. So trust, let's discuss what that means. If you've not had a role model for that, meaning a parent or an adult that was that way, there are ingredients. The trust that we spoke about before is in the mother's womb, and then in a healthy, nurturing environment is a combination of, yes, consistency, security. You feel safe. You feel safe around this person. And not safe for one day or one night. You feel safe over a period of time. It's consistent. You begin to rely on it. Now, may there be a setback? Yes, but there's accountability. These are the things you look for. You end up feeling, you know what? I can let my guard down because this person is a trustworthy person. It's someone I know. And you could test it. I don't mean over-test and make the person crazy, but test it. Let's talk about a problem together. How do we resolve a problem? Whether it's between us or between others. And see how they respond. You see, you know what? I like how this person solves a problem. I feel comfortable consulting with this person. So before opening yourself up where you could be potentially hurt, just see how the problem person is a problem solver, how they resolve issues. These things are factors that help build and cultivate the element of trust. What else is there in trust? Humility. The humility. Arrogance is never good for trust. Because arrogance means this person is going to be more busy about showing off or demonstrating that they're right than ever acknowledging a wrong. Humility means they acknowledge things, they admit the mistake, they're not overly pompous. There's a certain refinement and kindness in the person. That's another thing, kindness, empathy. Obviously, narcissism is, again, one of the worst things for trust. You can't trust a narcissist because it's all about them, no matter how they dress it up and package it. So there are many factors, there are many things, and I've listed a few here, that when you start looking for them, but you have to look for them, and you have to know that you may be extra sensitive. And you could test, in a sense, give the person the benefit of the doubt. And when a mistake happens, you can address it. Don't just say, oh, you've disappointed me, or in your heart say, disappointed, yet another disappointment. Now, there will be people who are duplicitous, lie. Obviously, people of that are not exactly going to gain your trust, especially someone who says, trust me. So bottom line is that all this are factors, but it's all about really being honest with yourself, honest with your situation. And most important, you have to remember, you could find people to trust. And beginning with trusting yourself, because that's often the biggest problem. What happens when our parents are not trustworthy? or other adults. We stop trusting ourselves. I thought this is a person that would love me. I thought I was worthy of love. I was wrong. And then you start convincing yourself of a new narrative. I don't deserve love. I don't deserve someone that I can trust. You blame yourself. So this leads me to something which is interesting. Of all places, you look at the currency of the United States, there's the word trust. In God, we trust. Not that we just have faith, or we believe, and we trust. I'm not sure who came up with the line. I didn't research. But I find it to be fascinating. Of all places, money. Is money a place you can trust anyone? When it comes to money, people will do whatever is good for them, for their own interests. And yet on the currency, in God we trust. Saying humans, like a Holocaust survivor once told somebody who said to him, how could you trust God after the Holocaust? He says, how could I trust God? How could I trust man after the Holocaust? I only have God to trust. I lost all trust in man. I once thought human beings would be there for me. So there's that element of recognizing that trust ultimately is recognizing something greater than ourselves, something you can hold on to, something transcendent. The expression goes, if you're bound above, you don't fall below. And that actually helps us also find trust among human beings, someone that is a God-fearing person. I say fearing, I don't mean the word fear, I mean someone that it's not about them, they're here to serve something greater. When your mother carried you in her womb for 9 months, whether she was a religious person of faith or not, it makes no difference. The fact is she provided something trustworthy. And she didn't do it on her own. She was created that way. God gave you 9 months of a head start to be in an environment where something you can trust. Without you even thinking about it, without you planning it, you didn't choose. It's not like, okay, let me shop around and say, which womb am I going to occupy? Which hotel am I going to go? Which one can I really trust? And you have all the advertisings that they say, trust us, trust us, trust us, trust our integrity, trust our experience, trust our this, trust our staff. It's all about you. All we're here is to protect you. When it comes to mother, nobody chooses. God chooses and put you in that womb and gave you something to trust. So the truth is, all trust in human beings at the end of the day is a human being who's a godly person, because they answer to someone, they're accountable. A person who's not accountable to anyone except themselves, can you really trust that person? When it comes to their self-interest, will always override everything else. You recognize that there's something higher than ourselves that we answer to. That's trustworthy. That's why it's critical. And I'm not advocating a religion here necessarily, especially when you're dating. Find a partner where you don't just have physical, emotional, and intellectual compatibility with, but a partner that you have spiritual compatibility with, a partner that recognizing something transcendent that's more than the sum of the parts. You're not trusting the person because they're so smart or they're so caring. You're trusting them because they have allowed themselves to surrender in a way to the hands of something greater. Because then you have two partners that come together and there's something beyond both of them. That's trustworthy. Because it's not about you. It's about the cause that's greater than you are. So when push comes to shove, you know that if there'll be an issue between us, or an issue regarding our children, or regarding some other matter, the person is not just going to demand and insist, impose their opinion. They'll say, what is good for the cause? What is good for us? What is good for something greater than myself? Self-interest won't be the beginning and end of it all. The selfish gene won't be the driving force. It will be the greater good. So these are some thoughts on whom you can trust. And they can apply and be applied to almost every given situation, whether it's family, whether it's at work, whether it's in other situations. So may we each be blessed to actually find someone like that. But you have to be open. You have to do your part. It's not just waiting for the miracle, waiting for the perfect person to come your way. You need to do much on your end to trust yourself, to recognize your own blind spots, your own weaknesses there, and to allow someone to enter your life. Albeit and pace it properly, but it can be done. So may you find that trusting partner. It can make all the difference. Thank you so much. This has been Simon Jacobson, Meaningful Life, every Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And please share this. If you liked what you've heard, please share it with others. Love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your comments. Please subscribe to our growing YouTube channel. MeaningfulLife.com is our website. Subscribe to our offerings. And again, love to hear from you. Be well and be blessed.